Welcome. It is Monday, February 22nd. Here live. Yes, it's live with Brandon and Craig. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Doing swell.
We do a daily podcast, so it feels like I see you guys a lot, but we recorded one early on Friday, so we actually recorded Thursday. So, man, I feel like I haven't seen you guys for a long time. It's weird. It's only been like Thursday to Monday. It's been kind of strange. Yeah, a lot of content for you guys over the weekend. We're experimenting. We tried to tape a Friday show on Thursday where we talked about Mount Rushmore. It was fun. I only anticipated us going like 20 minutes. I think we ended up going 50, but we had a lot of fun debating who was going to be on Mount Rushmore. And hey, give us some ideas. Well, we may try that again, where you guys have content each day, but we do something a day earlier. It was interesting, guys. I post on various message boards and Ohio Facebook groups, and I was telling you guys over the weekend, a lot of strange responses. I want to address this really quick. Hey, Ohio. If we're doing a Ohio Mount Rushmore, what do you call it? The assumption, right, should be that they're from Ohio, right? Or they've done something in Ohio, or they've been instrumental in Ohio. Does that just make sense to you guys?
That sounds like it would make sense.
Yeah.
Yes, because over the weekend, and maybe this is where we're at, everyone was like, yes, Jesus, and the disciples should be on the Ohio Mount Rushmore. And hey, I'm pro Jesus, no problem with Jesus. But if we're doing Ohio Mount Rushmore, Jesus didn't live in Ohio. Now, I'm sure he's everywhere. We understand that part. But Jesus shouldn't be on there. None of the apostles had an address in Ohio. Donald Trump, I think he was involved in some shady real estate deal in Cincinnati. He wasn't really in Ohio. So let's just calm down. Listen to the podcast. I was actually impressed. There were some people that picked good candidates, like one guy was arguing for Neil Armstrong. He said Neil Armstrong should have been there. One guy said the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm like, well, that's an inanimate object. That's not really people. But compared to Jesus and Donald Trump, good answers. At least it was something associated with Ohio. So I don't know. It was interesting. So yeah. So listen to the podcast. We don't want to give away who we picked. Some controversial choices and poor Tecumseh. I'll just put it like that. That'll be the only nugget I'll drop from the podcast. So, yeah, but a lot of great content over the weekend. Craig was reviewing Framing Britney Spears. You got to check out Britney. Made me think about it on NBC on Saturday Night Live. They used to do a vintage Saturday Night Live, and smartly they did a Britney Spears episode. So, yeah, Britney's in the news. Craig's reviewing them. NBC's dropping old Britney Spears SNL appearances.
I haven't dared to watch that Framing Britney Spears because, like, I lived it back in 05 or whenever it was. It was like my grandmother was already giving the commentary for Framing Britney. She's like, "Oh, the media." It's like she's like everyone misunderstands her. It's like JT's a horrible person. She was ahead of her time, and I don't want to live through that again.
I'm going to put my prude hat on for a second. You know, part of the thing, they over-sexualized Britney way too early. Okay, and to me, that was part of the problem. But then, if you look at her Twitter, I was tagging it for Craig's review over the weekend, and she's almost naked in her Twitter picture. I mean, I'm not expecting her to wear an old granny shirt and everything, but we're all. And yes, the media kind of screwed Britney Spears a lot, but it's like, come on, Britney, learn. I mean, you don't have to be a granny dress, but don't be naked on your Twitter thing. I'm a prude. I'm getting that look from both Brandon and Craig going, "You're 80.
Get off my lawn."
Yeah, get off my lawn. Live a little. Let Britney be scantily clad. Why not?
Yeah. Sex sells, Chris. That's just how that's just how the culture is.
Right. I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen the Framing Britney Spears thing, but if any of the things were like they over-sexualized her, it's like, okay, learn Britney. But
I'm just saying, like, my experience is, because my folks, they got their news through television, and so they had it scheduled to where they would watch, and I would be in the room now and then whenever I was working on homework or reading a book in my room, so I didn't do this religiously with them, but Entertainment Tonight at 7, and then Access Hollywood at 7:30, and it was just it was just like latest Britney thing, latest Lindsay thing, and then on top with a dash of Billy Bush and doing here's his latest venture with Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when John Oliver and Last Week Tonight did a whole mesh of Billy Bush with Donald Trump scenes from Access Hollywood days, I recognized almost all of them, and I was just like, "What? I'm like, God help me! I had no life. My family had no life." So just
well, at work on Saturday, I used to put some old YouTube videos on, entertain myself, and I got an old Regis Philbin rabbit hole where I was like listening to a bunch of Regis, and it was funny. And again, Regis, he's passed. I don't know what his I'm not trying to cancel Regis, but man, Regis and Donald Trump were close. There's a lot of appearances where Regis was like, "Hey, we're out with Donald Trump last night," and they actually did a Christmas album together. I never knew that. It was really weird. I was going through this old rabbit hole, going, "Man, why am I here?" It was kind of strange. Other content over the weekend. Today, I got a review of Judas and the Black Messiah. So we got some reviews from Craig, also Bob Garver. Let's see what else was going on this weekend. Oh, we also had yesterday a food podcast. Joe Frost, Paul Yanchek, and I. Not much to talk about in the Steelers these days, so we're trying to get extra content out there. So we did a one-off food podcast where I vented about pizza bowls and the protein bowls, and we vented about a bunch of other stuff. So that's up there if you want it. Today, I'm warning you guys, we're trying to upload podcasts on our feed as soon as we do them. There's going to be a massive content dump on the podcast, so I apologize ahead of time. Got a bunch of good interviews scheduled today with various people. We have first movie club edition where we're looking at Titanic 2. There's a Steelers podcast. And for those of you who want to catch up with movies, Bob Garver will be back on talking about movies, and it should be very interesting. So, yeah, a lot of good content. And, again, check out our sponsors, Chase Bank, Manly Man Company, Dropbox. And, man, I'm looking at Brandon without cracking up. So I've learned it over the weekend. I am doing it. I've matured. It's been fantastic. So check out our sponsors. Click the link. It's the best way of helping us out. I'm very excited about all the subscribers. Thank you for subscribing to the podcast. I made it easier. Starting today, we're going to have individual links for each of our 8 podcast providers. There was some question about, well, you go to this link to subscribe. What do you do next? Well, all of our 8 providers, we have separate links. You go right to the page, you can easily subscribe. So hopefully that answers that question too. My goodness, we are so much to talk about, so much to promote, but we got to talk about today's show. So a lot of interesting stuff happening today. Wanted to talk originally, this has been out for a couple days ago, but there was an arrest in Cincinnati for drugs. And obviously, with drugs being illegal and everything, you're trying to find unique ways of trying to smuggle them into the state. Well, one guy decided to do it via cereal, specifically Frosted Flakes. It was interesting. Brandon, I've never heard of this before. Are you surprised? Have you seen a drug smuggling via Frosted Flakes?
That's a new one. In terms of creativity, how many you thought Hollywood would have by now figured this, maybe have done a movie about this. Maybe they have, but must be a really B-rated film, B film that never saw the light of day. But yeah, this just cracks me up. It's kind of horrifying to see cereal sacrilegiously treated this way. So.
Yeah, it was 44 pounds of cocaine cereal. And I guess there was a shipment of cereal from South America, surprise, surprise, and the cereal is worth $2.82 million. And again, the cocaine, not just the cereal itself. It was headed to a private residence in Hong Kong. It's kind of interesting. So it was going from South America to Cincinnati to Hong Kong. Craig, are you going to be nervous to eat Frosted Flakes now? Or are you going to be afraid that there might be some cocaine on your Frosted Flakes?
Well, I mean, it would probably be a pretty big pick-me-up if you were to eat the cocaine Frosted Flakes. But yeah, this is kind of a unique thing. I've never heard of cereal being used to be soaked in cocaine. I wonder then if you just I mean, do you just grind it all up and then sell it, or I mean, can you get it off of the cornflakes somehow and then distribute it the way you want? I mean, I don't know how you do this, but it's certainly something I've never seen before. But I would imagine that when you're trying to push through 44 pounds of cornflakes through customs or wherever, that someone's going to be a little suspicious that you're sending 44 pounds of cornflakes somewhere. So probably not the smartest idea.
I'm a cereal guy.
What's that?
I mean, if you love cereal, hey.
Yeah,
I might do 44 pounds of cereal boxes one day. I mean, it's great.
I don't know. I mean, maybe Cincinnati has great exporting of cereal. I don't know, but sending 44 pounds of cereal to Hong Kong would probably raise a few red flags, I would imagine. But I don't know. I think I might avoid the Frosted Flakes for a little while just to make sure.
Well, and Brandon, I'm kind of curious. I know we're not up on our drug shipment protocol, but why can't you just ship it straight to Hong Kong? Why are you going through Cincinnati? That seems to be a weird layover. I mean, it's a shipment. It's not like you're flying from South America to Hong Kong and the layovers in Cincinnati. I'm not sure why that's the case.
I'm not a logistics expert, but I'm sure there's a logistics reason for that. All I'll say about the breakfast thing real quick is, they could rebrand it as Cokefest. Cokefest, your pick me up for the day or something. I don't know, some jingle.
The most important meal. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm guessing
energy for the day.
I'm guessing they're taking. I mean, this is great. We're giving drug tips out to people. So, hey, kids, turn this podcast off first. But obviously, I guess cocaine goes for the nose. That's the preferred inhalant for it. But could you eat the cocaine? I guess you would get the same high off it. Because you're not scraping the cocaine.
I have never done it.
You're
so
probably just eating that, right?
I've seen fictional takes where someone snorts and then they eat some of the cocaine like the last bit, or I don't know. It's
rub it on their teeth.
The way it's
huh?
What the way it's dramatized.
Do we know any cocaine users we could get on the show? Put our request on Facebook. Do you use cocaine? We'd love to talk to you. Give us a call. But if anybody wants to out themselves as a cocaine user, hey, come on the show. Help us answer that question. Yeah.
I mean, you could consume it. I don't know if he'll do anything. I mean, Coca-Cola was once upon a time made with cocaine, from what I've heard. Fact check me on that, but So.
Because I was thinking about this over the weekend, like when we talk about like vaccines, like COVID. Like if you don't want the COVID shot, like if you're not anti-vaccine but just anti-shot, like I am, could you ingest it in a different way? Like, can you drink the COVID vaccine?
Well, it looks like I'm on drugabuse.gov, and it does give like primary ways to use it. Now, granted, hopefully I don't get people busting through my window that I'm researching this, but it looks like obviously snorting is probably the most common use. Okay. Then you can also rub it. You can rub the drug on your gums for oral use. You can dissolve cocaine in water and inject it. That releases it directly to the bloodstream, and it actually heightens the intensity of its effects. So I don't know that I've ever heard of anybody injecting cocaine though, but I guess the rubbing it on the gums is a way to get it into your bloodstream or into your body as well. That actually works if you don't want to use your nose, I suppose.
I wonder if half the problem is like for a mail system. We've done stories of Gannett about how, like, when you send a Christmas card, it's ridiculous because you'll send it from one spot in Akron to another spot in Akron, but they track it and it goes through like Texas or something before it gets to Akron. Like, it goes all over the place. Maybe it's because of our shipment system why it's going from South America to Cincinnati to Hong Kong. It just seems to be a weird mix. So
is there I just wonder if there's like a direct, like, where does it go from Cincinnati before it gets to, it's not going to go straight to Hong Kong. So where does it go? I mean,
probably New York or something.
I think it's their mail system. Yeah.
Using like river systems, or are they just like, very strange.
Because right now there's some guys in South America going, darn shit, man, I can't believe it goes from Cincinnati to New York to.
It it's just weird because it should go actually not New York. I was thinking it should go to the west. Wouldn't it be faster to go West Coast? So maybe it was heading to the west, and then it would be a skip and a hop over the seas to go to Hong Kong. But my geography is right.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if the mail goof ups and everything, are they just so we can track if we're shipping other stuff there? Because that probably answers our question. Because like in the past 2 months, there's a lot of upset people going, it takes me forever to ship something for the mail. And, during the election time, people were like, oh, they're underfunding the election system so you can't vote by mail or anything. Well, maybe they're underfunding the mail system so we can track these packages better, right? Mm-hmm. So if you send the Christmas card to grandma and you got some cocaine there, there's a better chance someone could track it, right?
Yeah. I wonder if they thought like, hey, we'll soak the cereal with cocaine and it'll get through. Like, I mean, dog sniffing, they can sniff drugs on anything. I don't know that, do you think that people are going to be like, oh, that's just cereal? I mean, it's going to have an odor for the dog to smell no matter what.
I'm surprised they didn't sneak it in dog food.
Oh, yeah.
It's Fido's favorite.
Yeah.
Never mind. Shoot.
Well, you gotta find a better way, because I used to watch like Locked Up Abroad. I don't know if that was the exact name of it. And I spent some time in South America, and it was cool because they had all these shows about these Americans that were paid off to bring drugs back, but they brought drugs back in their suitcase, like very non-sneaky, and they got arrested, and they would end up spending the rest of their life in a South American jail. And South American jails are different than our jails. And, it was kind of the premise of the show. But so the guy gets smarter, guys. You know what I mean? Instead of just throwing it in some unsuspecting tourist, suitcase, you gotta, coat cereal with there, do something else.
Yeah, it's going to be getting pretty hard to come up with ideas. This is the first time I've ever heard of cereal being used. So, I mean, I've seen just about everything. I've seen, I've done stories where people have hit it up their rear end. I've done stories where people have hit it up their front end. So, this is a first for me, and I think I've seen most of where you could hide drugs. So, this is an interesting story to say the least.
Yeah, I always get grossed out about that, because anytime something has been there, I mean, it's just like, wouldn't that make it like 20% less or 90% less valuable? Because
it's valuable to them,
right?
That's all that matters.
But to the user, it's kind of crazy.
And they don't know where it was at.
It's almost a brilliant idea, because it's on frosting on cereal flakes, like Frosted Flakes. You're not putting on checks or anything. You're putting on Frosted Flakes, so there's white stuff on anyway. So I don't know. It was an interesting story. I'm afraid the last 15 minutes we're going to be accused of giving drug tips. But no, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was, you don't see that stuff every day. It's pretty good. So, wanted to briefly talk about this. I know we talked a lot of COVID on the show, but there was a story over the weekend talking about some frustration with the appointment setting for these COVID vaccines. We're out there, and last week, and Brandon, I think you were off that day, I kind of vented about we're losing patience with COVID-19, where we want COVID-19 to be done now. So we get a little weird and we start yelling at each other and everything. We got to be patient. But, I think at the same time, Brandon, I'm looking at a story like this and saying, if we're making a big deal from the federal level to the local level, to the state level, and everywhere else, saying, hey, you need to get a vaccine, I wish there would be a better system in place where, and it goes back to the IT arguments we had the other day about saying, let's get the better system so we can encourage people to get the vaccine and they can actually go get it. It sounds like there's a lot of confusion, not just with the IT part, but just with people understanding what the process is. Is there any way we can make this better?
Do IT better. It's kind of at this point, it's just trying to get as many vaccines out as possible, roll out. I don't know exactly what we could have done better. I mean, other than having some sort of coordinated national effort. So for the past year, we've done it more of the decentralized way of every state for themselves, I guess, and trying to come up with their own ways of rolling out the vaccine. Some tips I just love to share with viewers here is how some people I've seen got the vaccine already. Is just have a group of friends and family members work together, like look at drugstores and COVID vaccine sites repeatedly. Give information and cell phone number in case you hear they have vaccines. And then tell friends, family, and social media by text that you're seeking leads to find the vaccine. Get on every list: drugstores, MyChart for your health plan, county, city vaccines, and then Monday mornings apparently are a good time to check, because that's when vaccines are being scheduled for the week. So just plug in a lot of zip codes, and also, you can sign up for Walgreens courtesy card, and others can get an appointment when one pops up. And just don't wait for them to hear from them, and keep checking online. But really, this is the key tip here I want to share is that show up late in the day at drugstores to see if there are leftovers from people who did not show up, because this happens frequently from what we hear, and those vaccines expire, so it's important that that you might be able to get that vaccine, since a person who was scheduled for it for some reason or another decided not to get it that day. So
good advice.
Those are just some tips I want.
Well, can you send me a link? I'll include that in the show notes too. That's good tips.
This was shared on a personal Facebook page. Facebook post, but just something I came across. But happy to I'll get a screenshot for you. How about that?
Yeah, I
share
think
that.
We can share that. Yeah, definitely. No, that's good. Well, here's what's confusing me from what you said, and what you said was good advice. But so, the story talks about we're in Ohio, 1B here in Ohio, which says, hey, if you're 65 and up, you can get the shot. Well, but using what you're just telling me, Brandon, so people like us who are in our 30s and 40s and whatever, if we go to the drugstore at the end of the day, is it possible we can get a vaccine if there's leftovers? Even though we're not 65, that's what I'm confused.
That was my question. Yeah, but you know what? I would think if you're not in the eligible age range and you show up for a leftover vaccine, I can't imagine them saying no, because if it expires at some point, they have to put it in. It's better to put in someone's arm than no arm. I just think that's the logic. But unless, of course, to say, hey, if you know someone in your in the eligible age range, but I felt like that just takes a lot of time and coordination on that front. So, so maybe that's what's really tough about this is we're rolling it out by age because we want to make sure our vulnerable population gets this first. And we were having a whole discussion last week about schools kind of jumping the line and not really taking advantage of reopening schools. So I mean, it's a lot of tough decision making for our leaders to say who should get the vaccine first. But this will all get smoothed over because by the end of April, by the end of March, I'm hoping to see people in our demographic in our age ranges to start getting the vaccine too. So it's just you're right. We gotta be patient. we've waited a year, a few months, a few weeks. Until the end of this year is not going to make a difference.
Well, and maybe too, and I'm sure the unemployment lines is busy with people asking about Ohio's unemployment issues, but just put the information on the website. Make sure that's there. I know, the one that talks about coronavirus.ohio.gov, but make sure it keeps updated with this stuff. And because I know sometimes CVS is hard to get a hold of. I mean, I'll call CVS for something unrelated, and even ask a simple question. They're busy. They don't always answer the phone, so I don't know. Craig, how would you do it?
Well, I mean, right now it's almost like you've just got to wait until we get more vaccinations, and we've got somewhere between 187 and 230,000 doses a week to vaccinate 2.2 million Ohioans that are in that 1B phase. So I think that's probably why we haven't moved on. And it's gotten hard for Ohio to really, you don't want to plan something out and say, well, we're going to keep, initially we were going to do every week we were going to, introduce a new age group or new health, issues that would qualify someone for a shot. But we've kind of had to stop because we just don't have enough vaccinations. And I don't know that, I know that they referenced a story here in this story where Tennessee, a grocery store clerk, just a normal grocery store clerk, knows when it's their time based on their schedule. But I kind of wonder if that rollout happens the same way their scheduling is, because we would love to be able to vaccinate everybody and have everybody know that by the end of March, we're going to get down to the last adults. But it's just not happening because we don't have the rollout that we need. And I kind of wonder if other states, even though they're maybe a little bit more organized with that, if it really ends up being that rollout the way they say it's going to roll out.
Yeah, I like Brandon's idea, but maybe in your family, there's a ton of great media out there. And, hey, we work for the media, so please support your local media. But maybe it's good, too, just to say, hey, Uncle Bob or whoever that is in your family, can you help make sure we get signed up? Can you make sure, can someone really identify what the proper vaccination information is in our area? Because each area is different and everything else. And I'm hoping, and, from the story, it sounds like Ohio's trying, but just keep simplifying it, keep making it easier. I know there's been a lot of talk lately to say, will NFL stadiums be able to use as max vaccination sites? I know Schottenstein Center, they use that in the past as a mass vaccination site. Because the other thing that kind of concerns me is when it comes our time, and we're younger, so we're not going to be able to get a vaccine today. But how do we make that whole process easier? My wife got her vaccine because she's a school teacher in Central Ohio, but she talked about it. Hey, it took a long time, which it takes a long time. We have to be patient, but she's trying to figure out of how we make this whole process simpler for everybody. And I think that's why you've seen places like the Schottenstein Center, some of these NFL stadiums being used, because they can take more people than your typical hospital waiting room or whatever the case would be. So, should be interesting. Wanted to kind of go outside Ohio. I know we're in Ohio, but we talk about news that affects Ohio. And over the weekend, we kind of missed this as we were taking the Friday off. Texas, it's getting worse. I've got some colleagues working in Texas, and we meet with them each day, and man, it's sad to hear their stories. They don't have water. They don't have a bunch of stuff down there. Well, Ted Cruz, the senator in Texas, made some big news over the weekend. Ted took a vacation. He wanted to go to Cancun, and man, his friends ratted him out. I thought it was interesting. His first thing was, hey, I'm just taking my daughters down to Cancun. We're dropping them off. We're taking them back. Well, they found out through his wife's text chain that his wife was asking friends to say, hey, we got to get out of here. Anybody want to come with us and everything else? And man, Brandon, what about her friends? I mean, what type of friends does she have when her friends on the text chain relay the text chain messages to the media? I thought that was kind of interesting. But I know, Brandon, I've got torn thoughts on this. In some ways, a senator of the state isn't the first line responder against stuff that's happening in the state. But I think the better answer is, if you're in a public responsibility position, senator, representative, dog catcher, whatever the case might be, and if you're swearing an oath to protect the people, if you're really putting that in practice, shouldn't you be there for the people, even though you're not like the main wire distributor, or because I think one of the things that's making Ted Cruz look really bad here is you've got people like AOC. I know they're political rivals and they hate each other and everything else, but AOC is raising millions of dollars for people in Texas. And you can say, well, is it any of their jobs? But then on the other hand, I think it's showing not just your politics, but do you really care for people? And I know it's hard. I know it's hard for all of us to see what we can do. But it sounds like the empathy is just really being not shown by Cruz in this situation.
Yeah, and people have pointed out not just AOC, but Beto O'Rourke has done some, work with Texans, like organizing calling thousands and thousands of resident Texans asking, "Hey, what do you need? Well, water, food, generators. Do you need to know where where a heat shelter is located?" This is sort of, it was a very bad political mistake. It was a bad calling. But you know what? I've seen some photos from down in Texas where living rooms, there's icicles dangling from the chandelier or the light fixture. It is, but to your credit, a public official has to have like a certain standard that, you can't just treat it like some sort of typical executive position where you can, quietly go to Cancun, I suppose. But I am kind of more fascinated. What fascinates me about the whole thing is just how aggressive political Twitter, sort of maybe even the anti-Trump Twitter, of course, had kind of gone after Cruz in a way. Not to say he didn't deserve it at all. Just kind of, for the last 4 years, we've been, it's just been one challenge after another, one controversy after another, and now it's like this one. The story of like a lone senator making this really dumb decision, and just how it's captivated social media and traditional media is just seems strange. It seems a little, maybe it seems it's right. It's probably worthwhile, but man, it was the amount of attention just seems over excessive to some degree. But at the end of the day, politicians make a dumb mistake from a PR perspective, and Texans will have to consider it at the polls.
Well, and I think too, Ted Cruz has really put himself out there. And I know we're in a politically charged environment where anybody would get criticism, but Ted Cruz kind of throws himself out there, and that's what I struggle with too. I think it's been a little excessive, the let's rip on Ted Cruz, but he put himself out there, and does that attract more when you put yourself out there like that? If he was like a Texas representative who didn't really say anything either way, yeah, he still gets criticism, but is he going to get as much criticism as Cruz? That's what I'm trying to put my hand around.
I mean, the Austin mayor, a Democrat, and also, they're kind of infractions. Maybe we're not as bad as leaving your state when it's in a freeze emergency, but there was not as much hot white rage as I've seen about when Austin mayor went to Mexico. Went to a wedding in Mexico or some sort of event like that despite COVID restrictions in place. Right. Maybe apples to oranges comparison, but I'm sure conservative Twitter just kind of had their like a 1 day field day with it. But I don't know. It's I don't like tribal. I hate tribes, and I think politicians are going to make mistakes in some grave, and I think, like I say, hats off to Beto O'Rourke for capitalizing on and saying, "Hey, I'm not an elected person. I didn't win. I didn't defeat Cruz in the last Senate election, but I'm still gonna help out Texans." And I just think it was a bad political miscalculation on Cruz's part, and I think it was a smart calculation for Beto to take advantage of it, but. I think it's also just another fun chapter to speak about the kind of politician Cruz is, because he's not really he's not liked personally, by his own party. John Boehner, this is an Ohio connection for you, Chris. Yeah, John Boehner, I think, even called him a miserable son of a bitch. I think I have to go back and look that up, but I'm pretty sure Boehner did not like him. Lindsey Graham even said, some joke about if someone killed Ted Cruz on the Senate floor and they held the trial in the Senate, there will be no convictions. I mean, that's at least some. That speaks a lot about Cruz's character.
Well, I think part of it is you put yourself out there. I mean, we talked about this last week, with people on former President Trump. Why is the media coming after him? Well, you might be able to make an argument sometimes that it may be a little excessive, but Trump puts himself out there, and because you put yourself out there, you attract the criticism. Think of like Obama did that. Let's say Obama was now in Texas and he took his family on vacation. Yeah, he'll probably catch some crap, but will he catch as much? Well, he might because of people who hate Obama. But I guess what I'm saying is somebody out there who didn't put themselves out there as much. Well, like you said about the Austin mayor. Yeah, what he did probably was even a little bit worse, but since he hasn't put himself out there as a lightning rod for controversy, you don't hear as much about it. I don't know.
I mean, it's fascinating on that front. You know, a lot of Trump supporters back in the early days of Trump, they all kept asking the media, "Why aren't you covering Hillary Clinton?" And the media's response was, "Hillary Clinton's a private citizen. Donald Trump's the president." Today, now though, it's kind of Trump is not the president anymore, but he's still newsworthy in the sense that he could run again in 2024. It's that's the kind of the weird reality we face. And also another weird thing too is he's no longer got Twitter. You know, if he had Twitter still, he would still be in the news.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So I think that's the thing. Like political Twitter, I guess the point is it's starving for Trump. It really is. It just he drove political Twitter into frenzies, and then without that, I think political Twitter, the rage on political Twitter was palpable. So that's just my takeaways from it. So, Craig, feel free to chime in. I've talked too much.
No, I just the optics are terrible in this situation, and you know, like you said, Chris. Yeah, Ted Cruz isn't the number one go-to person when a historical sort of issue goes on in Texas, but I think from his perspective, being there and helping and trying to, to be sort of a mouthpiece for assisting Texas probably would have been a better play than taking a family vacation for a week or whatever. So the optics are bad all around. And, I think he's getting, skewered here on Twitter. And, that's what's going to happen when you do something like this, when you kind of duck and run after, a really terrible event happening in your state. Whether you're the go-to person or not, you should still be there just to be there to assist, or to be there to answer questions, or to help, or find solutions for why people are boiling snow to survive.
Right. I agree with you. The optics are terrible, and Ted Cruz has proven not to be the most sympathetic person in the world, not just on this, but on other situations. So, yeah, I mean, Ted Cruz deserves all the snow we can throw at him right now for it. I wonder, though, and I'm looking at my own life, and yeah, I'm not a senator. I'm just a dopey journalist who podcasts on the side. I mean, that's who I am right now. But I'm wondering, is there a sense of, as people, as a society, when crap happens, do we turn tail and run, or do we actually help? Like, I think about this, and this was, probably about 10 years ago. I was living up in Westerville, and we had really bad power outage. Brandon, I don't know if you were here at the time. I don't know if you remember that. Probably 10, 15 years ago, maybe. But we had we were out of power for like a week, 10 days. And it was in the summer. It was 95 degrees, and I'm a big guy. And in the summer, I want to be cool. I mean, I want to have a fan on. Like, even now, it's the middle of winter. I'm a little hot right now, so I got a fan over me, going at me. And I was miserable that week. And I took every chance in the world. Like, I would hang out at work at night. We had a small office because they had air conditioning, and they had ways I could just cool off and relax and everything. I ran away. Now, again, I wasn't a senator, but I guess what I'm wondering is, not just for Ted Cruz's sake, but as people's sake, should we be held to a higher standard to say, hey, when stuff happens, yeah, we got to take care of ourselves and we got to take care of our family, but how do we enact hey, how can we help out each other? Like, we're in the middle of COVID. Hey, I wave at my neighbors as I talk to them and everything else, but I haven't taken the opportunity to say, hey, are you okay? And I know we have to socially distance, but why can't we all do more to help? Yeah, Ted Cruz deserves all the criticism in the world. But if we're yelling about that, what are we doing in our own lives to say, hey, here's how we're caring about other people? Because, yeah, we're not senators, but I can understand people pointing the finger at us saying, all right, Craig had 15 tweets ripping Ted Cruz, which I know you didn't do over the weekend, but say you did that, well, what is he doing to help others other than just yelling about on Twitter? That's the thing I'm struggling with. I mean, any ideas on how to fix that?
Well, I think that makes sense. I think what you're saying makes sense. But in this case, especially when you talk about like AOC raising money for Texas, I think that it's something that Ted Cruz could be doing, and it wouldn't take a lot. And now I'm not saying that everybody's like going to jump at the chance to donate to help Ted Cruz or, to support Ted Cruz, but it's kind of like a common, sort of the common enemy thing where you may not like someone, but you're in it together type of thing. Like, I know that's sort of our Ohio, mantra now, but I think if Ted Cruz were to come out and say, hey, let's gather up money, let's donate money to help this cause, I think people would do it, even people that maybe not like him. And, I'm not saying that he needs to be out like, shoveling snow or, delivering water to people. It's mostly just being a mouthpiece, I mean, like AOC has been, or other people have been for the state of Texas. And you would expect someone that represents the state to be out and about and doing whatever they can, whether that's being a mouthpiece or delivering water or doing whatever they can do.
Yeah. And I guess even what I'm just saying in general is how can we resolve, even like the three of us, to say, hey, is there something that we can do? And like in my neighborhood, I can't shovel everyone's driveway. I can barely shovel my own. I'm a big guy, I get sick if I do that. But I guess what I'm saying is, how do each of us and how do each of our listeners just take a step to help somebody out? Because, we're going for COVID, Texas is going for COVID and the other stuff. And it may not be money. I know time's tough for everybody. We can always donate money. But I guess my takeaway is, Ted Cruz is a scumbag. I'm not defending Ted Cruz, but how do we as people help resolve to, help each other out? We had a discussion at church last night. Socially distanced church group. I'm not going the other way, and masked up. We were very socially distanced. But it's interesting. We were talking about when do we make a stand, like for our faith, and in the discussion, like a lot of it was self-centered. Like, when do I make a stand? Well, it's more of when do we make a stand to help other people out? And sometimes I think we miss that as people. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Any other thoughts on Ted Cruz? You think we'll be able to get him on the show now, or I don't know?
I don't.
Well, I just say that first off, Craig, you're modest. You have the connections. Just make a call, make the calls. But
yeah, Craig's got all the connections. Craig knows everything.
Craig secretly has Cruz on speed dial. It's number 9. He just hits 9 and boom.
I didn't.
I guess. Well, not anymore. That's a smartphone. Excuse me. Has a widget that is a Ted Cruz speed dial where he just taps on it and he's like, "Hey Ted, you got this. Come on, the Ohioan. Tell how much you love Texas."
He knows Jim Jordan, Dan Tierney. There's got to be connections with Ted Cruz. Come on.
But
not a phone number that I need, I guess, at this point.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Hey, I wanted to briefly close on this, and I'll leave a link in the podcast in case anyone wants to check out. Good story in the Columbus Dispatch. It is a subscriber-only story. Again, I understand people have concerns about paying with news for news, but hey, we're very support local journalists on this podcast. We're all journalists ourselves. Check it out. I think their latest deal is $1 for 3 months of coverage for. News for the Columbus Dispatch. But that aside, good story. Check it out. It's kind of detailing some of the latest in Ohio's efforts to bring broadband to people in rural areas. Definitely check it out. It costs money, and I guess that's my only concern. But, we've had guests from like Rachel Coyle and other people to say, hey, look, we're in a place right now where we need broadband. I think some of the reality of what COVID faced, some of where we're probably headed after COVID, with more telemedicine and everything else. So it's good to see Ohio do that, and it'll be good to see how they can make broadband better, not just if you live in rural areas, but even broadband better for those of us like Brandon and I who live in more urban areas. So it should be interesting. Check that out. We can talk about that another time. Anything else going on today that you guys want to throw out there?
No.
Very quick no from Craig. Brandon, anything else going on in your life?
Nothing I want to share.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, good segue, because before we end, I got to gripe just a little bit. Okay, this podcast isn't big enough. I mean, I'm not going to single-handedly ruin Wendy's by talking about Wendy's, but I felt I got to talk about this for a few minutes at the end. All right. Wendy's, I've always been a fan of for a variety of reasons. Dave Thomas, I didn't know Dave Thomas personally, but Dave Thomas always seemed to be a generally good guy. My family, we've adopted one. We're considering going through an adoption process on another. We're very open with adoption. We have open heart to people who go for adoption. Dave Thomas ran a adoption program for a long time here in Central Ohio and other parts of the country. Dave Thomas tried to do Wendy's differently. I don't know if Dave Thomas was Christian, but there was a nice, more family. It wasn't like Chick-fil-A, but there was a more family atmosphere there. I've heard places that played Christian music, and it was kind of a faith-based place without making controversial comments like you hear at Chick-fil-A or whatever. It's a very pro-Wendy's, a lot of nice family things to go with Wendy's. Well, sadly, Dave Thomas passed, and Wendy's has, in my opinion, gone the way of McDonald's and everywhere else, where you sit there and say, okay, we're still making money. We don't have to pay people a lot of money. So what do we expect from people? Here's my gripe, and this has happened 3 or 4 times in Central Ohio where Wendy's is freaking based. Thursday, it was a rough week last week for everybody. A lot of snow days. My family was home. Family wanted to be back in school. So Thursday night, I work from home. I tell my family, hey, let's go take a drive. We'll take a drive. We'll go through the drive-thru, get some food, eat in the car. Well, my family likes Wendy's. We go for Wendy's. We go for the drive-thru line. They immediately tell us, hey, it might be a while. We're shorting people tonight. And right then, it should have been like, all right, let's drive to the next place. But we decided to wait it out. We waited. They made us pull over. You know how, like, if the food's not ready when you go through and pick it up. We waited literally a half hour. A half hour. Somebody comes out, and they give us the wrong food. And they're like, and my wife's like, no, we ordered, it was like a biggie bag or whatever the food was. And the little kid, he seemed like to be 12 when he came out. He was like, are you sure you ordered that? Yes, we're sure. We know what we want. We already waited a half hour. We waited another 15 minutes. Yeah. We're driving away. And, hey, I'm a finicky eater. My kids are finicky eaters. This biggie bag had a chicken sandwich. It was like this, we said plain chicken. It was this chicken BLT combo. It had like sauce all over it, cheese. It was like, that's not even what was part of your order and everything. So we're ticked off enough where we call and we say, hey, something get messed up. Oh, we gave you the wrong food. So we were tired enough where they offered us more food. We went back and got the other food, and it was fine. I'm flustered. I know fast food, but Wendy's has always seemed to give a better treatment and a better experience. Like, they're like, hey, we're not McDonald's, we're Wendy's. But Wendy's is McDonald's. Wendy's has just gone downhill. I mean, have you guys had similar experience, or are you smart and you eat better food than I do? I don't know.
I've never had any issues like that at a Wendy's, but I guess everybody has a bad day, and maybe that was just a bad day. I don't know if it's a trend for them, but seems everybody has a bad day. Maybe they're short staffed. Was it busy there? I mean, were there a lot of cars in line at the drive-thru?
No, and literally, and again, I'm not going to gripe. I mean, we're not going to gripe on the podcast every time you have one bad experience. It's been 3 or 4 in the past. What do you call it? 3 or 4 in the past, probably a couple months. And it's just, and again, you're eating Wendy's. You're not eating fine dining cuisine. They're not paying Wendy's people that much. I mean, honestly, we gripe sometimes about, we don't make enough at our jobs. Can you imagine? Okay, you're in COVID. You're driving to a place, probably making $9 an hour. You're working late night. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're probably not going to put forward your best effort. I mean, I get that and all of that, but I don't know. Brandon, are you a Wendy's guy?
I dig their breakfast or some of the breakfast items.
No.
But I don't eat out as much, partly because of my diet and partly because it costs a lot. It does add up a little bit when you go out to eat all the time. And it's of course not the healthiest food out there. But if you're experiencing like 3 to 4 bad experiences at a particular location, go somewhere else. Go to a different location. There's like I love how on Reddit, Columbus Reddit, there's always this talk of the BK on 5th, and it's called that. Like it's almost a name. They really just changed the sign and just call it the BK on 5th because it's notoriously. People love it for being notoriously bad. It is. My wife and I went through it because we were going on our way to a brewery nearby, and she likes to get something she can eat because she's vegan now. But they messed up her sandwich order. It was wonderful. But that's so there are locations that are not every Wendy's is equal. I would say there are some locations that are going to be great, and there are some locations that are going to be terrible. Ironically, I mean, like I remember going to a Burger King up in the Powell area, and it was the worst experience of my life because this young guy, cashier guy, my wife ordered before me, I believe, and I put my order in next because we paid separate that time, and I got my order first, Chris. That was how messed up it was, and then like this guy was he had such a bad work ethic attitude, like got into a little argument with his boss, like when can I smoke? And the guy says, not until your break. There are no smoke breaks. There are no smoke breaks. I think Wendy's actually does offer employees smoke breaks at least at one point, wow. But that they might have changed it. But this guy then he kind of tried to go around and get tips from people. And technically, I get that you're a minimum wage worker, but you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to be a minimum wage worker is not supposed to be tipped. I mean, when I was one, I would try hard to give it back because I was like, look, I'm being paid like the federally minimum wage job, and I'm not tipped worker. Save that for service workers who do come out and actually serve you food. But yeah, that was up in the suburbs. So like I say, not all locations are equal. Some locations are franchise owned. They're not owned by the corporate center. So, so kind of use that. I think be a journalist, I guess, and do a little research on which locations are owned by the corporate office and which ones are owned by maybe by a franchise owner, and that might tell you what kind of quality is behind it or not. Is what I got.
Well, here's the crazy thing: each of the 4 bad experiences have happened at different Wendy's. Now, maybe they're all owned by the same franchisee, but it was the 2 in Westerville and 1 up near Polaris Mall. I mean, that
wouldn't surprise me. Those are because they're so close to each other. They could be a franchise. They very well could be.
But here's the thing that is kind of weird about it too. And I used to think this way, like, okay, if it's a Wendy's in Oregon, like if we're based in Oregon and everything, you might say, well, it's really far away. But when you think, and again, if you're a hourly employee at Wendy's, you probably don't give a crap, and that's part of the problem. But if you're managing a place like that, wouldn't you be kind of freaked out because the headquarters of Wendy's is based here in Columbus? Like when you sit here and go, hey, there's probably a chance that some higher up is just hanging out, checking out Wendy's, making sure you're doing your stuff okay. You would think like the Wendy's around where the headquarters is would be running tip-top shape, right?
Well, there's a lot of bureaucracy between headquarters and I mean, I when I was working at the McDonald's up in Westerville, I mean, they had what were called district managers, and obviously McDonald's not based in Columbus, but the district managers they had their own goals in their own minds, and they were very heavy-handed involved in some ways, micromanaging almost. And that changes a little bit when you shift over to a franchise model where it's more like a mom and pop business where they have more immediate impact on change, but they also can craft the culture to be what it is, and it might not be a good culture. but obviously, you think whether it's a franchise or corporate, yeah, you would think like, oh, there's more opportunity for higher ups to drive around, but who knows? Maybe higher ups don't even eat the food. Who knows?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know.
It's like maybe it's a paycheck for them at the end of the day, and they're focused on just promoting and doing different business ideas, like the breakfast rollout they did. Wendy's has done an interesting job of trying to stay relevant in the fast food industry. I think they've done slightly better than McDonald's has, because it's always strange how like those new soda type machines, you go in and there's like you can get 3 different multiple types of combinations of sodas or whatever. McDonald's hasn't really embraced that as far as I can see in Columbus. Just saying something, because Columbus is a food test market place. It's always been like where you can get the a rare kind of sandwich. So I'm just strange that McDonald's hasn't jump on that bandwagon yet, because Burger King and Wendy's have done so, and they've changed out the layout of their stores and try to make it feel more modern and aesthetically pleasing. So and it's just it's kind of convoluted with the way they try to set up the ordering system with self-ordering and regular ordering and mobile pickup. The food industry's really been disrupted and really kind of became a hot mess in general, just because of technology.
Yeah, and it's tough, and it's forced my family, and not just the bad service, but just like the cost, even if the food's done great, it's not the best food for you, healthily wise. But it's hard. I mean, both us are working, my wife and I, and like we went to a social distance church event. We get out there at 7:00, and my wife's like, "Well, should I go home and make supper?" I'm like, "Well, we got 14 to 8-year-old in the back, and it's already 7. I mean, it's probably better to pick up something, So it's tough, man. I don't know. I get disappointed because I still eat McDonald's more than I should, but you should expect, what you get when you go to McDonald's. Taco Bell, I always joke about, you spend the next half hour in the bathroom after you go to Taco Bell. You know what you get. I get disappointed when somebody like Wendy's, who advertises a better food and better service, seems to have gone to disrepair and stuff. But maybe we should move to Fremont, Brandon. The Wendy's there are golden. They're great. That could be your next marketing play for coming to Fremont. I mean, I know that's not your job as a journalist, Brandon.
Fremont, we got better Wendy's.
Yeah, but if you guys ever do like this marketing, like, or like if you're covering the Chamber of Commerce doing a marketing pitch, maybe should be their marketing pitch. We got the best Wendy's in the freaking world. How about that?
Definitely.
Sounds good. Well, that's all I got for today. And again, I don't know, me griping on the Ohioans probably not going to change Wendy's mind or anything. But yeah, if you're out there and you may be a food worker that's pounding your dashboard going, "That stupid Chris, why is he yelling at us?" Hey, open invitation. If you're a fast food worker, come on, defend yourself, and we'll grill you. It'll be great. Like, you should be grilling the burgers, which you don't. Jeez. Crap. All right, I feel better now. The world's a better place. I griped about Wendy's for 10 minutes. That's great. Well, hey, thanks for checking out the Ohio. We appreciate it. Again, we're blown away. We appreciate all the support. Again, keep sharing the podcast. Keep subscribing. And keep visiting our sponsors. It's great. Again, my maturity is all-time high because I'm looking right at Brandon as I'm saying that, and I'm not cracking up. But check out our sponsors, Chase Bank, Dropbox, the Mainland Man Company, Caribbean Apparel. Buy stuff from there. It'll support us and make us all happy. So thanks for checking out the On. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.